absolutely insane work from every single point of all of these teams. Unfortunately, we did see a lot of great squads dropping out so early on. We talk about Squad 99, we talk about the Dreamers. They have been some of the biggest talking points in this tournament. In fact, they've actually come off of like really high placements of the PUBG Mobile Campus Championship Finals, which just happened recently. So a team like Squad number 99, they have been doing great up until this point. They drop out early as well as the Dreamers. What a tragedy.
Yeah, it's really tough to watch, but I mean, that's the thing. Like, when you get the top 20 squads from India here all on one stage, one of the top teams is going to get knocked out early. That's just the way it is. Everybody is so talented here today.
Yeah, the biggest problem there for the Dreamers was that I think that they were just at the wrong place at the wrong time. When they tried to kind of commit to a certain point, the problem was once they got out of their vehicles, you know, they were just basically pincered in by so many teams, and they kind of panicked because they were being shot from behind. They had to deal with the team right in front of them, and it just made it so that, you know, Dreamers didn't really have a chance to kind of breathe in that environment. So they got wiped out too early for I think for their liking.
Exactly. Squads like Squad 99, the Dreamers, there should have been definitely a lot more going for them, but unfortunately it just didn't pan out that way. The circle plus getting caught in crossfires a number of times really ended up in really terrible situations. But also one of the key talking points that I did want to bring up is of course the performance of God's Reign in this. And God's Reign did absolutely phenomenal work, mowing down people with, you know, TP. Just absolutely insane. And also this
grenade.
That
double nade from Mortal, though, how about that? That was one of the nicest nade shots I've seen in a long time.
We'll definitely get back to that. But for the meantime, of course, we cannot skip about how God's Reign did. It was time and fight after fight after fight. They were just winning, taking down squad after squad. And they were absolutely always in the right position at the right time, and they had the skill to back it up.
Yeah, it was really nice to see God's Reign coming in. It was the aggressive play style, but really nice rotations around the map as well.
I think the biggest thing why Seoul was able to get the upper hand there wasn't only just the really good individual player mechanics that they had, it was also how they just rotated around the map. You saw that they were looking aggressive, but they never really committed to the fights where they felt like they're going to be overwhelmed by a lot of teams.
Yeah, never.
Yeah, exactly. They just went around the map first, they felt it, and then maybe around the last 3 remaining circles, the last 2 remaining circles, that's when they really just set their pace because they knew that they had to get the good positions. Yeah. They did. They were fully equipped, and they had taken no damage before that, so they had such an easy time kind of committing to the fights because they have so much resources to work with.
We did mention and talk about, of course, the people, the man of the match, Mortal, and of course, Team Seoul. We did expect that they would perform well, but not to this level. It was absolutely insane. You mentioned earlier on they started off the circle a little bit slow, trying to avoid some fights, but when they got their gear, when they got the weaponry that they needed to take fights, it was just constant battery. They were never afraid to take an engagement.
We did see them early on moving around in that US where they were just spraying out the windows at teams like a little bit of drive-by scenario. I think for me, it didn't feel like they were trying to avoid fights as much as they were trying to set themselves up for success. Like every single time that they stopped, wherever they positioned on the map, there was nobody at their back. So Seoul was always facing forward, and they're always facing forward at 1 or 2 squads. And when you have nobody behind you, you have nothing to fear. All of your attention is forward. It's really, it makes it that much easier for you to land those shots.
Yeah, at some point it's about picking your battles here. And speaking of picking, we do actually have a very special draw today. So to all the people who are watching at home, you have a chance to win your own Oppo phone. And to, of course, to be able to do that, we have a very simple mechanic. All you have to do is be watching the streams and share them to your friends on Facebook. And we'll be picking out lucky winners of Oppo phones a little bit later on today.
Can we qualify for that as well?
You know what? I don't know.
We're going to have to check the rules.
But I'm going to do it anyway and share the stream. I've already done it, so Oppo, you know what's up. Of course, thank you to Oppo for making this all possible. And if you want to win more of the Oppo phones yourself, all you got to do, again, share the stream on Facebook.
There you go.
So in the meantime, let's take a look at the scoreboards, the brackets. We're going to be taking a look at how many points exactly we won. So we're going to be showing you on our screens how many went to God's Reign, how many exactly went to CMT INF. Yeah. But Seoul coming out on top with 500.
500 plus, I would say, because they had a lot of kills.
Yeah, they did. What I do want to know for a fact, especially, is how God's Reign did. Considering that they didn't get second, they didn't get third. I think they were fourth, maybe, but they got an enormous amount of kills on top of that.
The thing, that's the thing I wanted to point out a while ago, was that it was kind of interesting and awkward to see a lot of these teams kind of swimming around from military base and trying to just mountain climb on the side of where they were fighting. And then I think because of this particular interaction with the players, however they got into that position, God's Reign basically had God's eye right on top of them. They were standing at Mount Olympus. All they had to do was throw out Zeus's lightning bolts. They got so many kills because of that, and they were able to just, rack up the points based on like how players position themselves. And it was, again, just super interesting. And I think it's just because they didn't want to go around, near the bridge. But in any case, interesting.
Yeah, honestly, it was a little bit of a tragedy. I saw maybe 3 or 4 people slide off the side of the cliff.
I mean, they were trying the whole time.
Yeah,
it was just not until the very end the B squad was able to like climb their way up. They learned how to rock
What
climb.
can you do? I mean, you're ready for battle. You've got all this weaponry ready for you, and then suddenly they tell you, oh, well, you kind of have to climb a mountain too.
Okay, you got Mortal above you firing down, nades dropping, and you got to climb a cliff. It's like literally the hardest position that you could have found yourself in on the map.
There's no way they could have went out on top of that. One got through at the very end.
Right.
The funniest part of this was that it took all the game up to the very end for someone to get on top of that cliff.
It was like 5 to 10 minutes of trying
and then
to
by
climb
the time it happened, it was like a 1v3. But in any case, we do have a winner for the giveaway.
Whoa.
Somebody actually already has been shared. That quick. We are serious about our giveaways
It's technology.
here.
We're in the future.
Yeah, we are in the future. I mean, to the point that you can be a victory, of course. Yeah. So for the Facebook, of course, and the YouTube contest here, we do have our winner. So congratulations to Sarvesh and Pushkar. Congratulations to you guys.
Congratulations, guys.
You just won yourself some awesome Oppo smartphone. So if you want to win, we're doing a little bit more. Make sure to share that stream, share it on Facebook, share it on YouTube.
One of these bad boys right here, huh?
Yeah, definitely. And of course, it's absolutely beautiful. Thank you again to Oppo for making this all happen. But also, thank you to Team Seoul. Wow, what a treat that we had for them. It really did show a masterclass, a textbook example of excellent PUBG knowledge. When to take fights, when to go in, when to commit, and when to back out. You saw them earlier on. They were selecting when to leave a fight, and then by the end of it, it's just like, we're just going to kill everybody.
I mean, they had multiple vehicles rotating around to the very end. So, yeah, they had that mobility. They had the game knowledge. And you could tell, like, some squads were a little bit hesitant in how they're moving around the map. The one team that I wanted to mention that I think was the RNG winner of this map was Maximus Alpha.
Yeah.
If you notice that Maximus Alpha was actually kind of pinned down and could not move for a long time, but the circle just kept closing in around them. They were able to just hang out in that building almost until the very end.
Yeah, I think at that point they were really hoping, like, yeah, we're just going to stay here. Hope that nobody has the nades or the artillery to basically take us out. And
exactly.
Fortunately for them, that secured them a lot of a higher position coming into the later stages of the tournament. So we'll see how they do. But in fact, speaking of the people who did fantastically, actually the MVP of this first round, let's take a look at who it is.
Oh.
Not surprising, they're Ninja. 6 kills, absolutely insane from RIP Gaming. And this was the player at the very beginning, RIP. They were caught in between that Mexican standoff that you did mention. They were in the 2 houses and none of them really could take a fight, but somehow they recovered it and got a consistent amount of kills.
Well, I think the thing about Ninja is we saw him pushing buildings aggressively. They got into that standoff, but when it came time to make a move, Ninja was the one that rushed into the building, guns blazing, and just able to take people down. So that's really nice to see that aggressive play style.
Yeah, I think it was just because of how, again, the team's position, wherein I think that was, the Mexican stand-up between Maximus Alpha as well as RIP officials, and then there was a third party, Slay, who actually tried to push aggressively. They made a huge mistake. They went up against Ninja. Ninja went ham, and then it all just, went into their hands. Even though RIP official didn't get the highest of standings or of ranks, they still got a lot in terms of those kills.
It was basically a glorious moment. Ninja, very much less like a ninja and more like Rambo, just coming in, guns blazing, is like yippee-ki-yay and takes everybody out. So that's the kind of moments we're looking for. So definitely a worthy MVP play for him. But in the meantime, of course, we want to talk about how these teams will fare. So let's take a second to show up how these teams are doing. So 500 points for the winner. Let's take a look at the point system in just a second. But obviously, before we get into... Oh, there we are. Yeah, we're just waiting for it. So here we are, the standings. We've been waiting for this today. It's BSUD, sitting at 140. What do you think of these standings so far? Squad 99, unfortunately.
I think Oxygen Alpha is one that kind of surprises me, being down at 12th place after round 1. That's a team that you'd be expected to be up at the top. Also, Dreamers down at 19. Really where I think nobody expected the Dreamers to be at this point in the tournament.
This is definitely not what we were looking to see. I mean, 3 of the teams are at the bottom, the Punishers, Dreamers, and, you know, way at the bottom. Now, on the other side of the spectrum, of course, Seoul sitting pretty at 500 points, but now they actually got 760 because they got 13 kills as a squad. Ladies and gentlemen, they're not messing around here.
Not messing around, just pulling or just throwing out their punches. It is insane. I think a reason why we're seeing such a kind of a wild card in terms of our points here is just everyone is just looking out to get you.
Yeah.
So if you misstep even once, they will take not an inch, but a mile off of you. And the only team who was able to never really give an inch was Seoul.
Yeah, think about this. The way that they're playing, the methods, they're absolutely perfect. And because of that, they're so ahead that they're actually more than 200 points up on the second placers. Everybody else is sitting close. They're in contention for the top 2 place. But at the moment, the way it stands, Team Seoul is way above everybody else, 210 10 points above.
Well, if you look at the playoffs and how they got here, not only did they have more kills than any other squad, they came in with 80 kills through 3 rounds in the playoffs. They also were getting chicken dinners in all of those matches as well. So it's just absolutely impressive. And I would not expect them to slow down moving forward. That's only a confidence booster for them, which is really scary for everybody else on that stage right now.
Yeah, everybody else on stage must be shaking in their boots because when Team Seoul is looking this good, it's really quite a sight to behold here. But of course, let's talk a little bit more about the players themselves, as we do have the top 10 players coming up on your screen. So sitting at the top 10 right now, Ninja, of course, with the 6 kills. Mortal sitting at 5, Buttman Rapid sitting at 4, and of course Arrow at 3, God's Reigns, Manu is at 3, Shroudy's at 3, Omega's at 3, Viper and Rebel is also at 2.
Yeah, Rebel coming down at 2. I'm not really surprised to how this is all shaking out thus far. I just gotta say, I mentioned it earlier, but Mortal throwing that nade in, getting 2 kills with 1 nade, that's one way to pad your stats. And I think we heard the whole crowd just explode in that
textbook.
moment.
I mean, it didn't even hesitate. The grenade itself just perfectly.
I think we could all read it. Like the moment he threw it, you were like, yeah, that's going to be good.
Yeah, it was. We already know what was up.
And more than the throw, it was the way that the amount of time that he cocked it. Like he held it for the perfect amount of time for it to explode right at their feet. So absolute, not just precision, but also accuracy from that throw. Absolutely beautiful. And that's got to be one of the highlights for the tournament, definitely.
All right, so something I kind of want to bring it out there. Even though we have such a great standing already for Seoul here, we are still, playing a competitive game of PUBG Mobile, and it's because of that I feel like we still haven't really seen any of these teams shine just yet. And something that also I want to point out is that the next map, I believe, is going to be Sandhawk. So it's going to be more tight-knit. That more teams will probably make mistakes. And I think a lot of these teams are hoping that Seoul makes a huge mistake and then they get straight out. So I'm looking forward to just keeping my eye on them once we drop onto that particular map and seeing if they're going to be able to, to adjust to it. Yeah. Absolutely.
Also, we've also taken a minute, speaking of people that they don't want to play against, we actually took a moment to ask players of who they don't want to go up against, the most feared team. Take a look at this.
Okay. The team we fear the most.
The teams which we look after.
One of the teams which can give us tough competition is Team Firefrost.
एक ऑक्सीजन अल्फा करके कोई टीम है, उनकी स्ट्रेटेजी बहुत ज़्यादा सही है. मतलब अगर वो जोन के बाहर भी है ना, तो जोन के अंदर वाली टीम को भी इजीली टेक डाउन कर रहे हैं, आराम से, मतलब बहुत ही इजीली.
बेसिकली सोल, ऑक्सी.
हमारी टीम को सोल ही लगती है क्योंकि सेमीफाइनल देखो ना आप, पहले राउंड में सोल ने मारा, दूसरे राउंड में वापस सोल ने मारा, तीसरे राउंड में वापस सोल ने मारा.
तो 20 बार बदला लेना है, दो के मारना है, उनको ही ढूंढना है मैप पे कहाँ पे है और उनको ही पेलना है.
The teams which are gonna give us a good competition are the teams which have experience. They have been playing and performing well in previous tournaments.
There's no such team in particular, but if we want a team to get out first, or we don't want to have a fight with them, is Oxygen Alpha because of their aggressiveness.
We don't fear anyone, no one. We fear only ourselves. We fear our coordination. We want our coordination to be perfect. हर किसी की अपनी खुद की एक स्ट्रैटेजी होगी, तो उनको लाइक डिफीट करना हमारे लिए इतना इजी नहीं होगा।
2000 टीम में से 20 रैंक निकालना हार्ड है भाई, बहुत हार्ड है।
Well, I don't know about the most feared team, but I would like to face the Beast Squad.
पर्सनली मैं तो किसी से फेयर नहीं करता हूँ, लेकिन मुझे इतना पता है कि टफ टीम्स है।
टीम्स लाइक NHD एंड गॉड्स रेन।
इस टाइम यहाँ पे बहुत हार्ड होने वाला है हमारे लिए।
सभी टीम सेम है, मतलब सभी टीम अच्छी है, सबसे फेयर है और सभी से कम्बैट करना है।
And we're not overconfident about it, but we are confident that we can win this tournament.
हमें नहीं लगता कोई ऐसा टीम है कि हमें आके मार जाए आसानी से और ट्रॉफी उठा के ले जाए, वो हमें नहीं लगता है।
Let's not talk about it any further because the players themselves have said it, and you know we don't want to talk about redundantly how afraid they are of going up against players like Team Seoul or the Dreamers. But speaking of the Dreamers, they are going to be the players, the team to watch out for, as we are going to be going into Sandhawk, a map that is so inherently aggressive in its nature that you have to fight. So aggressive players and aggressive teams will start to shine here.
Yeah, they will, and actually, I think it's so interesting because all of these teams really define themselves as aggressive, especially the Dreamers, as you said. Now, the Dreamers find themselves in an interesting position because they get knocked out so early in round one. It puts pressure on them to really start to perform in these coming rounds. And that pressure can really do a lot to your mentality, almost actually forcing mistakes from some teams in these kind of moments.
Yeah, they realize at some point, okay, this is when we have to shine. This is what we got to do. And that might just change their playstyle. Unfortunately, that might not be the best thing for them at this point.
It's going to be scary for a lot of the teams who, well, like you guys already said, are placed around the bottom percentage of these total 20s. But in any case, something I also want to point out, since we are going to Sandhawk, I also asked these teams which map they preferred. 19 out of 20 answered Erangel, and one team said Sandhawk, and that team is God's Reign. So
God's Reign.
Yeah, well, we're definitely going to be looking out for them. Hopefully, they can bring the thunder and take it back from Seoul, who did actually manage to come out of that on top. But we're going to be doing that when we come back from our break. So stay tuned. When we get back, it's going to be the second game of the series for one more time before we get into the break. I'm Illustrado. This is Humanist, and this is Asteroid. We're your hosts, and we'll be back in a second.
Oppo.
Match was insane, but now I come back to you because
Oppo.
Got it, got it.
We may not have seen a more iconic moment than that perfect grenade. What a way to start off the tournament with Seoul taking it into the first place, of course with an amazing performance by Mortal here. What can you say about that last game, gentlemen?
I mean, honestly, it was just a pleasure to watch. I think, of course, we're going to see these teams get warmed up and more in their comfort zone as time goes on, but it's really great to see it. And as that circle closed in, these teams just started going full hand.
Again, just going back to the very interesting thing that happened there was, like, the teams had some really strange mindset where everybody was coming in from the waters trying to climb up, and that's where God's Rain just, well, rain hell upon their opponents and just mowed them down, got a lot of kills from
My
that point.
question is, does that sort of paint the perfect picture, a caricature of what the teams have to struggle to get to in order to topple what feels like a monster in the form of Seoul right now? Because they're doing absolutely phenomenal. God's Rain not too far off in terms of performance, a little bit unlucky for them. They ran into Seoul and they lost out that battle, but really we've been seeing one hell of a brawl from both of these sides here. My question is now, however, though, we are going to be going to the next match, which is going to be Sandhawk.
Yeah.
And what do the teams generally have to do now to sort of adapt to this new map and, of course, you know, to this sort of playstyle that they'll be having to go for?
So, I mean, I think the first thing that we're going to see is just a more faster game overall, which is going to lead itself or lend itself to those aggressive teams who want to get up early in your face. In fact, I think we're going to see a lot more squads drop out before they're fully looted, as opposed to our round one where teams were able to fully loot up, start to move, and pick and choose those battles. There are less places for you to get that full loot up and get full comfortable.
Exactly, and because it's Sandhawk, you're kind of taken away from your comfort zone. Not because it's not Erangel, it's a smaller map. Like you said already, there's going to be a lot more rotations coming in. And something I also want to point out is that there's a lot of verticality with Sandhawk that you have to go around mountains or hills. So this is going to be like whenever a team's on transition and they're basically kind of like out in the open, easy pickings for those who are just like looking from behind them. So it's going to be very interesting. Something I also kind of want to point out from game number one is that a lot of these teams really wanted to take the fight against opponents, but I think that didn't really suit the play style of such a big map such as Erangel, wherein if a team doesn't want to fight against you, they can just go around the circle, loot up, and then fight you when you're big. But in Sandhawk, I think it's going to be much, much different.
Agree, and I think we definitely saw that as a tried and true tested method, because we did notice that whoever came out on top of that were sort of the teams that tended to play a little bit more cerebrally, tended to wane off of the aggression a little bit earlier on and then do the calculated aggression when it was time for a pincer, when it was time for a blitz. Just like that perfect blitz play that we did just see in the middle of the match as well. And finally, when it came to taking out Compound. So, of course, if you're in that situation, you want to be able to play smart. And I feel like Sandhawk is a completely different beast on its own when it comes to that aspect. You have to rely on more aim.
Yeah, definitely, and you have to be just careful of your movement around the map as well. Well, you mentioned which squad was it that preferred Sandhawk? Out of all the squads, there was only one.
God's Rain.
God's Rain.
And they're one of the teams that we were really looking at too. I mean, God's Rain started off this tournament immensely, successful, picking fights, getting successful, getting those quick downs and those kills and those spray downs, really showing us what they've got. They didn't come out of this on top, but Sandhawk might be a different story.
You know what I think is really interesting too is because a team like God's Rain did play so high early on in round one. If by some chance Team Seoul does get knocked out, below 10th place in round two or something like that, suddenly God's Rain could find themselves up at number one overall moving forward.
Yeah,
so
speaking of people that may be knocked out here, honestly, a little bit of a shamble here for Dreamers and Squad 99. They're really popular. We talk about Experiment, we talk about Iconic, some of the most popular players here in India. But unfortunately, for the first game, they were knocked out so early. But of course, it's not the end of the story. It's so early on that if they win match after match, get themselves back into the mentality, figure out how to get back into the game, then I wouldn't be surprised to see if they come back into this.
I mean, that's kind of like my favorite ride to take at a live championship is when a team does get knocked down early, but they're able to pick themselves back up, dust off their shoulders, and just ride up to the top and maybe even place first overall. They still have a chance, and they have that chance to make that story happen here today.
And I feel like, the chance that they're going to be able to get that back is in Sanhok, because, again, you saw how, I'm just going to compare this from Erangel, because definitely, again, like you said,
we have to give that comparison.
Exactly. So Erangel, if you kind of make a mistake and you saw opponents kind of drop into a certain spot earlier than you, you can immediately just go around, find a vehicle, and go for a very far place and loot.
Yeah.
It's very different with Sanhok, because there's a few places where you can really just get really good loot here. So I feel like it's whoever gets the touch move, whoever gets the first down, whoever gets the first items will get the really good advantage early game, and then whoever adjusts to that, whoever tries to go away from the really congested areas is going to have a really tough time, because they have to go around all these...
Get loot,
pick
really
fights, tiny
exactly.
Areas with loot.
Yeah, so it's a lot about confidence. It's a lot about momentum as well. So obviously Team Seoul coming up of that victory, they have a lot of momentum. They have a lot of confidence. But Dreamers, of course, and the Squad 99 Punishers as well sitting at the bottom, they're going to have to dig deep and somehow find themselves to it, which brings us to a point that if you're going to be a professional player, a very, top of the line, the best of the best, you have to be able to have that mentality where you reset yourself and
I
get
thought you were
back
going to say
into
you
it.
have to be named Mortal, but
That
you went a different direction with
that. Too. You also have to be named Mortal or maybe Iconic, but we have yet to see what Iconic has to bring to the table in Sanhok, of course. But you do have to have that mentality where, okay, you say to yourself, let's get back into this, let's take this fight, let's reset ourselves, let's not get tilted.
Yeah, well, B Squad, you can see a little bit of communication back and forth. These guys, they're going to wrap their head around the fact that they're going into TPP Sanhok in round 2 here. And they got to be riding a bit of a high off of that round 1 matchup.
Yeah, round 1 definitely was a very interesting round. I mean, the B Squad, they got very, very far. They did fantastically. Unfortunately, definitely not able to see them perform to the fullest at the end. They seemed undergeared. They also had a little bit of a bad position coming to the end.
Do you think that Seoul would have wrapped that round 1 up earlier if teams weren't actually trapped down below the cliff? Because that was what I was wondering. Like, did the cliff actually give an advantage to these other teams that Seoul maybe had to deal with?
I really feel like it really gave an advantage because, again, these teams were kind of just really scrambling, and it felt like they had their minds 50-50. They were trying to deal with people up above who were shooting at them, and they were also trying to kind of just get a really good angle because, yeah, they can, pop some shots up from the low ground, but because you're on the high ground and you can just peak really well against your opponent, it sets you up in a really, really disadvantageous position.
Especially TPP.
Exactly.
I'm going to agree with Asurai on this one. He seemed to say that it really just seemed to delay the match. I mean, if they were in a better position, they would have had a fighting chance. But the fact that they were literally climbing a mountain to get to that fight was basically an improbability that they would actually come out of that on top. But of course, it's solidifying the lead of Team Seoul. But before we talk about anything more than that, I want to take a moment to say that if you want to be the brand new owner of a phone from Oppo, of course, all you have to do is share the stream, share it on Facebook, and we'll be picking out the winners. We've already drawn 2. And we have some more winners here in the stadium, those participating in the awesome games that we have. So if you want to be the next level and maybe compete into PUBG as well, make sure to share the stream so that you have a chance at getting an Oppo phone yourself. I mean, I do want one.
I mean, I think it's really great. The developers of PUBG Mobile have done a great job where you can, depending on the phone you have, you can make it work. But you get a great phone, your experience is that much better. And these Oppo phones, they're amazing. Like, you can go full quality on them. They're running hot, and it's just really amazing.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to be competing up against 575,000 players to be the #1, you better have the right equipment for it.
You better have a battery that can last.
Go ahead.
Kind of just something I wanted to point out about that is that these players are coming from other devices, and they were actually set to use the F11 Pro, right? So what's kind of awesome is that they only have a really short amount of time to kind of get used to the phone, and then they were able to adjust so quickly. You saw how just Seoul was able to, you know, kind of just adjust to it fantastically and then pop off. So
I mean, you could tell like nobody's struggling. Like everybody looks super smooth in their movements. I didn't see anybody like try to jump through a window and like face plant into like the wall or anything like that. That's like me when I'm playing PUBG Mobile.
But in the meantime, let's take a breather and take a look at the current standings, the current scoreboard. Let's keep you up and up to date, with the action and all the standings of your favorite teams. See how far exactly are we in. Of course, it's just the first game, but see how big of a mountain they have to climb to get back into the game. So let's take a look at your screens. We're going to be showing you the current standings, of course, and in which case Team Seoul will be #1. And who was their #2? I think was it
B Squad
coming
with 555, I think.
Yeah, and so here we go. Not a lot of separation. Oh.
Well, look, always bring up the bottom first.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can see, I think it was Team BS Hoodie coming in at 11th once again. Dreamers down
something I also kind of want to point out here is that the entire first game of the Erangel map, we saw a lot of these teams get these packages uncontested, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of going to be changing in Sandhawk is that, again, we're super tight-knit, so our team's going to actually go for the care packages, where before in Erangel it's much more freer to get.
Yeah,
but
like
now
you saw a number of
riskier.
times in Erangel. In fact, even for, I think it was Seoul. Yeah, Seoul, at the very start of the game, they did have a care package just like, blop. Right,
yeah, they had to drop like 6 nades to like get it to drop down for them, but they did get the first one. Yeah. I think like if any team was going to get that first care package, like giving it to Seoul felt like such a massive advantage in that moment.
It's so unfortunate, but anyway, here we are. Take a look at your screen. Seoul sitting at 760 points and a little bit far off, 555 for B Squad, and then followed by RP official God's Raid. So looking at where exactly they are, it doesn't look like they're too far off.
It really doesn't, but at the same time, it's also kind of scary because knowing what Team Seoul's capable of, if they continue to stack up like this, suddenly it's going to feel like, you talk about the mountain the teams literally had to climb in round 1 to even face them to try and get that chicken dinner. It's going to be like that mountain trying to get there, and you're going to have to take first place in rounds 4 and 5 to maybe even have a chance.
Yeah, I mean, it's not an easy feat to be able to catch up to Seoul, especially if you're at the bottom.
Actually, let's try flipping that. What do you think if Seoul is on Seoul's mind right now? Because they're on the top board right now, right? So are they going to be playing aggressively coming into Sandhawk, or more defensively because they don't want to lose this, their 700 point stack from game 1?
That's an excellent point that you've just made here, and it's always about the mentality. They know that they have an advantage. They know that they're ahead by quite a bit. So the question is for this team, do we adjust? Do we play a little bit safer? Do we have a fail-safe sitting outside of the circle trying to heal up? Do we somehow play more aggressive and try to exacerbate that lead? So that's really a call that Mortal has to make on his team, and that's a lot of pressure, but I think he'll be fine in the end.
If I had to make a guess on this one, which I guess I have to, I'm up here
go for it.
I'm going to say Team Seoul really doesn't do anything different. I think they approached this game with their same game mentality that they brought into round 1, the same mentality that has made them a fan favorite across India. Yeah. They know exactly what they want to do. They've played tons of these games. They have the experience. They know what they want to do. Round 1 was great. I don't see them going away from that, so expect the same thing from Team Seoul here in round 2.
Yeah, I mean, in round 2, we're going to see exactly, I'm hoping, exactly the same type of game, because if you're in that professional setup, you want to think about, okay, let's just keep doing what we're doing the right thing, don't change anything. It's easy to say this, I mean, it's obviously 2020 in hindsight, but if you're in the moment, you're like, okay, we're on top, it can get the better of you, and real professionals will be able to say, no, we'll just keep doing
I actually wonder if maybe that's what happened with the Dreamers in round 1, because, we have iconic Experiment. These guys, they have such knowing that they're fan favorites and everybody's rooting for them, sometimes you can get a little bit, not to say like arrogant, but just like forward in your movement, thinking, hey, I'm going to move in, I'm going to get this early aggression, taking out some kills, and that backfires against you. So I don't see Team Seoul in the same position, but definitely that makes sense for a team like the Dreamers.
Sometimes you feel invincible, but you're not, so sometimes these invincible plays that you try to do kind of backfire in your face, and it happened for Dreamers. So again, it just kind of, at least that's kind of a learning lesson for them. Again, there's a lot of these teams that we were talking about a while ago that thrive in the chaos. They really want to go for the fights because it lets them evolve. And we're still at that phase where, and again, this is 5 games. We still have 4 more to go, and even though there's like 700 points, maybe you're at the lowest, you're like 70 points, there's like, oh my gosh, like 600 plus that you have to climb up. There's still 4 games that can definitely let you come back to that.
Yeah. My theory has always been that if you can somehow keep your head cool, if you can, no matter how tough things get, you still manage to pull through, and we've seen that it's successful in the international scene. We talk about other esports. We actually have teams that have sports psychologists.
Oh, absolutely.
Esports psychologists that sort of help promote the mental health, help these players get into the right mentality to compete at the highest level. And sure, right now here in India, we are getting to that point. And with this level of competition, of course, mentality plays such a big role.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, right now you have players like Mortal who are captain of the team, an all-star on the team, but also kind of taking on that role as coach, analyst.
That's a lot of pressure.
It's everything rolled into one. And as we do see the esports scene here in India start to develop, you get that peripheral support around that makes a team really something special, and suddenly players get to just focus on what they do best, which is play the game. And I love that you brought up that sports psychology tidbit, because it's really important. Being able to keep cool, calm, and collected, focus your mind, and be able to just get right in and do your job. That's perfect.
As you mentioned, it's a lot of work here for the in-game leader. You have to have some sort of level of mental fortitude to... Honestly, just playing the game itself is so tiring, it's so taxing, because you have to be always in your peak form, coupled with the fact that you're dealing with a crowd here shouting your name, and you have to live up to that, right? If you're in Mortal's shoes, you got to impress this crowd here, because they're all cheering for you, and the fact that you have to carry your, lift up your team, you also have to frag at the same time, so there's a million things going on. With a sport, like say a sports psychologist or a proper organization that backs you up, it takes a lot of the pressure off the shoulders of the players, right?
But right now it's kind of going to be different, because again, a lot of these teams, or again, the scene in India is still starting. So I feel like I know that we're about to start the game, so I'll just talk about this later on. So
so we're going to go to the game, but before we go, let's make a little bit of a prediction. It's a very, very quick one, but I'm going to ask you something a little bit different here.
All right.
Who do you think will go out early, and who do you think will come out on top?
It's tough. You want to go first on that one?
That is actually really tough.
No, let me start this off for you. Since I boldly asked you this ridiculous question, I think the Dreamers, this is their best chance to do this, aside from the FPP later on. So I'm going to look to them and see that they're going to go out on top. And honestly, I'm hoping that this won't be true, but I'm really hoping that Punishers won't go home early again, because they might be so tilted that they came out last.
Yeah, well, hopefully they're not tilted. I'm thinking Oxford now that plays high.
Quickly.
Ouch, that's my dark horse team, man.
Okay, that's all right, let's go.
Okay, I'm going to go for the Dreamers, because they're the team that, even though they're a fan favorite, they actually just, this is their first online tournament, so yeah.
Yeah, okay, so that is going to be it. We're going to be going into the game. We're going to be your co-pilots here. I'm Illustrado. This is your boy, Humanist. Let's talk about the drops.
Let's go! All right, round 2 on Sandhawk here. Now, this is a much tighter map, tighter quarters, and as you said, if you don't get that drop that you're looking for, you can find yourself in a really scary situation early on.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the maps right now, from the southeast to the northwest, but relatively in the middle, it doesn't matter as much as in Erangel, because in Erangel, wherever the plane flies, there's so much space. Here in Sandhawk, it's pretty much the story where you drop, and it's not really that far off here. So earlier on, you do need to have an idea where we want to go, where are we comfortable playing, where do we want to end up in the middle. But look at this, so early on, FaZe taking so much damage, dropping down to like a fraction of his HP.
Yeah, this is going to set BSUD back early on here, playing defensively, which is going to be hard to get that loot early on, because Team INF has got that damage down. They'll be able to force forward and take aggressive fights.
Yeah, taking early fights is very crucial here. You want to be able to get into that momentum. You want to be able to get into the zone and think, okay, we got this. And just like this right now, popping off, it's Swapnail trying to find that information. They're really toe-to-toe here, squad number 19. That's actually BSUD. They don't want to give up too much. And here are the ships. You can see FaZe
has to take a little swim back over to Iron Fist there.
We're about to find out who is the captain of the ship and the master of their souls. Here, I think it's got to be, honestly, INF. They're looking very good. They have the guns that they need.
Well, early on here, Noob just trying to get that positioning. He did take a little bit of damage, but it's all about angles here early on. I think I kind of prefer, actually, the side of BSUD being over on that ship. trying to fire back the other way, but it's fairly even as all things are considered. Now, as we look to start to see how some of these other squads have landed around the map, it's going to be no different. You're going to have squads right on top of each other.
Yeah, you don't want to be able to take too many early fights, sure. I mean, you do want to be able to be in a position where you take out one squad, you do get the loot that they have and stuff like that, but at the same time, you do not want to bite off more than you can chew.
And here we're going to see Soul getting that loot up. I mean, these guys already have their mobility, not a problem for them. It looked like Ronak did take a little bit of damage early on here, but not something that they're going to be too worried about.
Yeah, easily just taking out that car, going for a little bit of a drive in the woods. It's not a four-wheel drive, but it'll do the job. Those
a little red Riding Hood off the grandmother's house through the woods.
They don't make these cars like they used to. If I did that with our car, we'd probably blow out a tire real
I mean,
quick.
quality has gone down over time, except for with the Oppo mobile phone. So
exactly.
That's all I got to tell you right there. Swapnil, though, trying to get up onto the high ground, has position here. You can see it looks like BSUD's taking a little bit more damage. It stays early. Now shots coming back over towards Team INF. Swapnil tries to rain down from the high ground, but he doesn't have the angle through these doors or windows.
Ooh.
Nice cleanup right there by Anmol.
Anmol did have that angle, though, popping up that door and bursting out, getting that kill. That's the first kill of the game, I'm pretty sure, and it's one of the more exciting situations because they are really quite spread out here around the outside edges of the circle. And if you look at exactly where we are, Team Number 1, they do have a fantastic view of where Team 19 is. So if Team 19 exit this building, they're going to have to find a way to go up against these snipers that are really trained onto their position.
Yeah, INF already lost one, though. Now, Hill firing from the hill down on towards Team Arrow here. Arrow just caught out PH. He's going to be dropping out here momentarily. It looks like his team, they can't get out to protect him or get the revive, so that's a tough position to be in.
Yeah, but look at this here from the back. Sniping support here. It's going to be Furky looking to get those taps in. Actually has the VSS. Tries to go for one. Doesn't connect just yet, but it looks like he wants to fall off a little bit. Doesn't want to bite off more than he can chew, and I think he's just going to go back to loot here. But talking about what we just witnessed right there, you can't get your teammate up if you're caught behind a flaming car and you have to cross over with Sniper. So you're just going to have to bite the bullet and let him go.
Yeah, that's one of those situations where if you are that player that hung yourself out to dry, you kind of have to know, look, I got to get myself out of the situation because if my team comes to try and save me, suddenly we're getting wiped. Absolutely. Yeah. And that's something we will have to correct moving forward.
You can't risk that so early on. So while I think that, yeah, you should be helping out your teammate, it's a tactical move to be able to say, no, let's hold off for this moment. We'll let you go, and then hopefully later on we'll come back when the teams are more injured and we have a better chance at coming back into this fight. So we'll see how that plays out for them. But in the meantime, we're looking at the experiment here. They're looking to come back and do a little bit better in this match. The Dreamers, obviously, we're looking at them to sort of perform a little bit better because we pegged them as one of the top picks for this tournament here.
Yeah, the Dreamers taking things a little bit more slowly here in round 2. They're going to get all of that loot up. We see Vampire moving forward. Oxy really not having any contention here early on. I'm actually surprised that we haven't seen squads taken out here.
Yeah, I mean, considering how small the map is, you would think that people would be dropping like flies. But speaking of drops, wow, that's a nice pickup. AWM and an AUG. So who's going to be getting that today? That's going to be Gunda and Co.
So the thing about this, though, I love that you get the AWM in this drop, and on Sandhawk, you have the high ground, and if you can play the map, you get really nice angles. You can fight around these rocks. If you get some nice snipes off, you can just put squads pinned down in a position where they actually cannot move.
I mean, if you have the AWM, you need to be using it affirmatively, but also you need to be able to conserve your bullets. If you have the AWM, you only get a certain number of bullets within that care package. So unless you pick up another AWM off of someone who had one, you got to conserve your shots and make them count, because you can easily find yourself one gun down in a situation where there may be overwhelming odds against you.
B Squad, after their performance in round 1, sneaking around here, just trying to search out some squads, really not finding anybody home just yet, but you can see playing very carefully as they look to move forward.
You know, we just talked about the AWM and how it's such an important gun, a beast of a gun. It is like a one-hit down for the most part here. I mean, especially on headshots, even if you're in the level 3 helmet.
Yeah.
The question being, though, is do you think it's the most preferred sniper for you? A lot of people would argue, like, I'd prefer M24s, but personally, I'm a Car 98 boy through and through.
I mean, I think the thing about it, it comes down to how often you're actually getting your hands on the weapon. And we talked about earlier, sometimes, like, there can be a weapon that's technically not as strong, but if you have the experience firing that weapon off and that's what you're comfortable with, I think it's going to come down to player preference. AWM, though, I'm never going to turn it down.
Yeah, because the AWM, the bullet velocity and the muzzle velocity is so minimal that you just aim and you don't really have to adjust that much. Speaking of snipers, MK14 and the Groza, which we can call the face melter basically here. You can just shred teams with the Groza as well.
Squad melter, indeed.
Squad melter indeed. But in any case, so the AWM is one of those guns that you really, it's so powerful because it's also easy to use on top of being powerful. But for me, the most exciting sniper is always the Car 98. There's no feeling like landing that pop, that shot when you hit a Car 98 shot. It's just absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I think like not only the feel of the weapon, the sound,
and
it's just
it's
like
vintage.
it feels so good, right? It just feels like you're at home.
Vintage, it's because it's a World War II gun too, so like way back, still pretty cool. In the meantime, Swapnil still just driving around here with his buddies, trying to look for a spot, just find some loot here. It's going to be a little bit scarce because, as we know, Sandhawk is one of those maps where you really got to go around and gather those weapons here. I mean, it's not like Erangel, so many spaces to go to. Inevitably, you're going to run into somebody because of the size of the map here. Just like what we're seeing now, team number 2 right on the cusp of coming across team number 3.
Yeah, too easy for moving in here.
But a member of Gods, oh, hold on, that thought.
Oh my goodness, Soul taking a lot of damage. RIP trading blows back and forth. They got to reposition, kind of turtle up here as well. Looks like 12 Lanky getting a knock as well as Doc. Some damage coming through, rapid firing. He's going to move back, wait for somebody to potentially move into the building as that door was closed up here. These guys, there's really nowhere to go. You see Psycho down low, has the position to fire up. There's people above and below.
They've already lost a player, and another one is down, so things are not really looking so good here. Fortunately, on the side, Lion King does actually manage to get his buddy up, so there's 4 people down, but they still have to push on to RIP. And RIP, they placed really well last game, so they don't want to come out early on this one. They need to be able to survive somehow. I wouldn't be surprised if they backed off. That might be the smart call to make here.
Yeah, that's always a tough decision, right? Like, you take a little bit of damage, I don't have that angle, but if you don't have a retreat, there's really nowhere to go for you. If they feel like they can squeeze out of there, maybe they have some mobility around them, that's an option.
Smoke grenades are going to be popped off here just to see if they can maybe find a way in or out, actually, preferably. Does have an angle, but the spray down, that's going to open him up, though. No one to get a refrag, though. No one to go in and, punish that peak, though.
Yeah, Ninja actually going to pick up a little bit of loot here, cleaning up from their previous kills.
He was our MVP in the last game. 6 kills from him.
Oh, good reason.
Yeah, for good reason. See if he can keep this ball rolling. But at this point, he's lost a number of players already. Tries to get the
fire! Oh! Ninja! 12 Lion King put a shot up. Ninja almost getting taken down. Psycho from Clan Soul firing back up. Almost able to get that damage.
Somehow manages to survive that spray, though. And the Psycho actually does manage to hang on by the hair of his chinny chin, and he's still managing to get up that hill, so he's going to be okay here, but they're actually starting to drop members. RP have already lost 1 here, but now's the time to capitalize if they need to. They need to be able to go in now. Everybody is low, so they should be able to make that call. Okay, throw the smoke. That's the spray down, getting caught off behind the tree. Has to find an angle, needs to isolate this 1v1, and instead, but it's actually going to be Max.
Oh, Kritaga taken down once again back over to this little cluster between RIP. I think he's going to go ahead and try throw nades into the building here. Psycho once again trying to peek around the edge. It doesn't quite have the angle, but they know where Rapid's hiding right behind that tree.
Yeah, and this is not a good sign right now. They've lost 2 players, could be 3. 1 is down. And if they don't act now, heal up, and make a decisive move, this could be all over so early for them. I mean, so Psycho, the new guy, we've talked about him again. He really has to come into his own and prove, make his moxie,
Yeah, it's kind of tough. Like, when you come into a team